Hello, hello. Hey, thanks for the patience, mate. How you doing?
Ah, good, brother. How you doing?
Not bad at all. Let me just adjust your levels. So you said this game was a little gross. What are some
Yeah,
other words you'd use to describe this game while I get your audio level right?
uh, just outright disgusting altogether. I cut drones at one point without even meaning to. He was on one base for I think the entire game, just sending like waves. So yeah, it's a rough time.
Okay, so you just kind of messed your opening up a little bit, and then he was just going super aggressive, and you kind of were stumbling. So you see this more as like you just making some build mistakes, just not quite in the rhythm.
The big thing for me is like I think I don't really understand what to do in certain situations, I guess. And I get these like hyper like cheesy aggressive builds thrown at me, and I'm like, oh shit, like what the fuck am I supposed to do? So I just start like making stuff all over the place, and then I hold it. Like I do end up winning the game, but it's yeah,
You're not in control, right? It's
yeah,
you feel like you're flailing, and it just well, the thing is, StarCraft is so impossible to come up with what you're meant to do on the fly. You need to come up with set plays, set reactions, set rhythms that you can sink into within the chaos. And it's never perfect control, right? Like even when you kind of really know what you have to do, there's always something that you didn't account for, or something that we kind of don't take into account or forget. There's so much to do, right? But we need to try and find that rhythm. So, and this is something which, looking at your questions, I was already thinking about this. I was like, this is great. You've got specific replays, you've got questions, but the main thing that we really want to get out of today, and I guess we'll just... So do you prefer this being down the bottom, or is it okay if I just put this at the top of the document, by the way? Since
oh, I need to open that actually.
Okay, because you kind of restarted the document again, like on page 5 with the notes for today. That's why I didn't see it at first. And I was like, oh, could you put some notes in there? It's like, it's good you've got replays. But then then you're like, oh no, there are questions there. They're just down on the 5th page. I'm just going to cut and paste all those questions.
That's cool, yeah.
And
Whatever.
the info...
I don't know if you see at the very bottom where it says game plan. I did that after our last session because the biggest takeaway you had for me was like, oh, I didn't plan, you know what I mean? So I've been trying to like...
Oh, so that's up to date, right? That's all recent then?
Yes.
Oh, that's beautiful. Awesome. I was going to ask you about that. That's really good. Awesome. Well, that's really important because there's a few things, especially in cheesy games. One is like, it forces you to just tighten the basics of your early game, right? All the little details of how you're executing your build. But the other thing is we need to start planning reactions, learning to generalize things and write down exactly what we think our response should be and kind of work from there. Basically developing little set plays and comfort zones within the chaos. So, yeah, so you know what? With these notes, I'm just going to copy paste. Well, we've got that. We've got all this game plan stuff. This is all new. So this should... I guess it kind of comes down to how you prefer to organize it, but I prefer to put the most recent stuff up the top. So I'm just going to chuck all this up here and go zwoop, so that we've got all our most recent stuff there. So game plans, and this was updated in kind of like May, June 2020. So I'm just going to write June 2020. So we know that's actually recent. So that's not too like, oh, these are some, old things from the first time we've ever coached together. Nope, those are more recent. Awesome. Okay, so you've got all these great questions. So here's some of the big things we want to cover today. Okay. Number one is basically, I guess what we should say is the impetus, right? Aggression, cheese, proxies, weird play that is hard to understand, right? What is, it's that's not hard to understand. It's hard to put in a simple box, right? It's hard to go, oh, I've played against this 50 times. I know what's going to happen next, right? And this is very common at all levels of the ladder, but there are special, swathes of the ladder before Masters League, say, where you can get a lot of players. You can have a whole day of players that just do totally off-meta builds that they've kind of come up with on their own. So step one is always going to be tightening of our own build, right? So anytime we deal with aggression, one of the best things we can look at is like, hey, could I have just like spent my money and, better? So you go back, you look at the start. Okay, you know, like you said, oh, I froze up on drones for no reason early on in this game. Okay, so we can go back and look at that. We can see if there's a symptom or a reason for that. Or we can just go, okay, let's just try to tighten up the opening, get our rhythm down, right? It's checking the early game outside of any big thing throwing us off, right? So tightening up our own build is number one. But then there's, okay, things start to happen in the game. And we start to go, oh, what the hell should I be doing? Like, what? Oh, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I counter it with this? And that's really bad, right? We need to just be able to grab a direction and go with it. And it's very hard the first time we do it, but that's why we want to always be kind of analyze replays to understand the enemy's build. And the thing is, if it's a really sharp all-in, right, he's rushing BC as quick as possible. There's a sharp, obvious read you can make on that, right? But if you see someone who's like, oh, he's kind of going Marines and tanks and medevacs, and he is taking an expand, it's just a bit later than a normal expand. He's not going 3cc, but he's got double engineering bay. It's like this real hodgepodge mix. There's some late game commitment with upgrades, but there's some of some units, some of other units. It's not easy to put that in a box, right? It's just a bit more of an inefficient play. That's one where you've got to go deep on real fundamentals of like, okay, I need a real generic response. But if it's much more defined, like I said, if they're rushing 2 starport BC, we need a much more specific response, right? Like that's like, everything's going into like this very specific thing for my opponent. I need to understand how to deal with that. So I guess that's the 2 categories we'd look at. So weird builds equal generalized responses. And there's always a little bit of crossover. You know, tight builds like, I don't know, Mass Banshee, BC Rush, etc. equals very tight responses. So if you're coming up with a response list, a reaction list, a set play, here's the process. First step is identify the problem. And often in a game like this one here, you're probably going to have multiple problems that pop up throughout the stages. So first of all, identify the problem. Look for the tells. Part of that is watch from their viewpoint. So a lot of people go straight to looking for the tells without really understanding what they're looking at. So I guess what we should say is watch from their view and understand the goals first of all, right? Understand the build. Or at least understand the amount of commitment that it is. Economy versus army, right? That's really going to help us out. So we have some more context. So it's identify problem, look for the tells. How will our standard scouting identify this? You can't be looking at it and going, oh, well, if I did very specific scouting looking just for this, I could find it with this. If that's not something you normally do, that's not useful. Because then you're trying to counter a strategy that you don't know is coming yet. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Because we immediately basically end up getting afraid and we're scouting for things that haven't happened yet. And then, yeah, it just leads to a cycle of inefficiency. So if it's like, oh, dude, I really do need better scouting, we improve our standard scouting. So things surprising us, fucking us up, can actually give us a good reason to just get better standard scouting practices. So the final one is detail the response. And that, I want excruciating detail. So most people get supply blocked when they're dealing with something different. I don't mind you having like build extra overlords as part of a response or something, right? Normally people are like, oh, it's BCs, I should build spores. We need the timing those spores go down. We need to think about the timing the BC is going to hit us. We need to know, well, how much do I drone? If I'm going spores and queens, what impact does that have on my economy? So let's give the example of someone who's rushing a battle cruiser versus you. And say you feel, because you don't play a crazy high queen style maybe, you're like, I really want to get 2 spores in my main, spore in my natural, 2 spores in my third. That makes me feel safe. If we put those down at 4 minutes, BC arrives at 6 minutes, massive waste of money, right? We could have had way more minerals. Second point, if we go and do that and we haven't taken into account that that's a big investment, and then we still try to get our gases, our roach warren, and our other tech up at the same time as normal, we end up doing two things that slow our economy down, right? We're kind of defending ground units that aren't coming because our opponents are investing everything in battlecruiser, and we're investing in all this gas and tech at the normal timings, but we're investing so much more minerals and cutting into our drone count for these spore crawlers and extra queens that we end up just behind from where we should be. So part of building extra spore crawlers for a BC response might be delaying our gases and tech an extra 30 seconds so we can get a few more drones out as well. And that way we're kind of cushioning the impact of the response to the battlecruiser. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess like a little example here, right? BC arrives main base 6 minutes. So that's our problem, right? So that's the problem. Obviously, we'll look at this replay specifically in a sec and go through specific examples, but I want to go through a purely theoretical one to make sure I don't get distracted from the structure, because the structure is so important. Because, yeah, basically just let's finish this and then I'll summarize, right? So, so what's a tell of the BC? I mean, that's obviously going to be if you see a fusion core, right?
Yeah.
Fusion core, fair enough. And then response. And this is where you get into crazy detail. We could be like, okay, well, I know there's no Banshee, so I actually don't need quick spores. I'm going to go, 5 minute 20 spores in each base, second spore in main base as well, placed in mineral ions, not behind them, extra queens, and as I said, delay gases, 30 seconds. 30 seconds and drone plus extra overlords. Because you're going to lose a few overlords, right?
Yeah.
You're going to lose some OVs, you're going to lose some drones no matter what. We know we're going to be distracted, so we're just kind of mentally preparing for that a little bit more. So, so that's one of the big things you can do is exactly what we just wrote there. And you can see where that response I wrote up, right?
Yes.
Cool. So obviously, I've just kind of mapped out a lot of material. We've got to talk about and absorb this in a moment. So just two parts to this. Game's thrown off. You're messed up. Number one, tightening of our build. I cannot go past how important that is, right? These problem and reaction lists are great because it gives you a path to follow. Okay, I need to add these spores at this time. And suddenly there's a way we can start rehearsing the response within the build. But there's also just a straight up basic like, we got to tighten our build from the start as well anyway, right? So let's look at this specific replay now and let's just kind of take our time a little bit more and absorb kind of what happened here. So you here in this early game felt like we're really kind of thrown off from the get-go. So you mentioned there was one point where you froze up in your drones at the start. But was it really kind of once the Reaper got here, or was it just some mistakes happening in a vacuum even before that?
Well, right after I killed the Reaper, I sent 2 lings across the map. Actually, before that, I sent the lings across the map, and I saw 3 barracks and no expansion. And so, in that moment, I was like, okay, so I need to make Zerglings and Banelings now. And then I was like, okay, I'll fit some drones in on the back end. And then I held the first push, but instead of making drones, I made I was 16 more lings, I think.
Right. So you kind of feel like you overmade Zerglings because you were just kind of caught up in the adrenaline, where at the point where you could have taken a drone advantage and been really comfortable, you just overbuilt units and you couldn't use them. So you think that was one of the crucial mistakes this game?
Yeah.
Okay. So what about in the early stages as well? So right back here, we're taking a lot of damage from this this Reaper, right?
I actually don't lose a drone.
You don't, but building spores and losing mining time is actually quite expensive. So you actually do end up losing a fair bit of minerals from that. So if you get 75% back from 75, that maths is hard for me to do. Those aren't round numbers at all. But you lose 18 minerals, a spore crawler cancel, as well as the mining time. It's more important than that, though, is you're distracted right now. So you've got 4 lava you're not spending. So are you taking damage? Yes, you are. You got 400 minerals. No drone going towards taking a third, and you're not spending your lava. So you didn't take direct damage. You took a shitload of indirect damage to this Reaper, and you're also making the opening more stressful than it needs to be. I like sending 2 lings across the map to try and, slow down the command center or whatever, put some pressure on him, whatevs. But I definitely think this opening wasn't very smooth. And we could have just built 4 Zerglings ourselves immediately. See, he says build more drones consistently at the start. Doggo likes economy. Happy Doggo. But yeah. So I mean, look at this, 800 minerals. So there is a huge. What's going on here? 5 lava sitting there not being spent, and no third hatchery, right?
Right.
And now we're dropping a baneling nest, and we're building 3 drones. We've still got 3 lava there. So that's a weird one that we just built 3 drones. We didn't spend the rest of it. And now we're building a few more zerglings already. But we don't even have a third hatch. So already straight off the bat, is he actually demanding any response other than the normal? Looking at these marines coming across the map, I would completely disrespect this. That's 3 marines. We don't care. Your queen can beat that, right?
Right.
If you build 10 zerglings, you could build them as these are in your base and you'd be fine. The problem is we don't have our third hatch could be almost finished by now if we had a smoother opening. And so our opening, that tightening of the build here in this replay, massive things to fix up in terms of making sure our opening is a little bit better. So I think most people, try to keep things nice and contained. So with your opening, I mean, that third hatch, even if you're up against a 1-base build, is so important. A third base is production for you. Without that production, you're just going to struggle to build drones. You're going to struggle to build army, whatever you're focusing on. The third hatchery, a lot of people get focused on this. Oh, he's on 1 base. I don't need a third. Yes, you do. You've got 600 minerals. So you can often even get a 4th hatchery on just like 40 drones in some situations, because all a hatchery is production. So got to remember that mindset. A lot of Zergs fall into this. They go, oh, well, I'm already up a base. I don't need another. But that is like building an extra barracks, that third hatchery. Think of it that way. Think of it, it's an extra 2 gateways, It's actually a defensive structure. It's putting the drones on it. That's the risky move. So what do you want to do with your opening? Do you want to normally build 4 zerglings and leave 2 at home and send the other 2 across? Do you want to leave all 4 lings at home? How do we want to clean up that little Reaper defense? Because it's important from the start to make sure we put a structure in place. For even that is a problem, is we didn't spend our lava consistently and we took damage to the Reaper. So this in of itself is something I want us to actually have a, maybe not a reaction list to, but maybe a tightening up of the build list.
Gotcha. Well, I normally start 2 queens right when the first 2 finish. And then I don't actually make zerglings normally after those first 2 until ling speed's done.
Yeah, we're talking about the initial Reaper though. So this is well before 3rd and 4th queen.
Gotcha.
So this is these 2 lings at this point. Reaper's about to arrive, or Reaper is arriving. You've just had your lings. So I mean, how can we deal with this Reaper at this moment better?
Maybe make 2 sets of lings instead of 1, and send 1 across and 1 to help just delay the Reaper.
Cool. All right. Yeah, I like that. 2 pairs of lings, 1 for defense. It's kind of like a sacrifice. It's like, yeah, we don't care if they die, but it just, what does it do? Like, you don't even need to micro them. You just, like, it allows you to focus on droning. 1 for defense, 1 goes across the map. That's 1 pair, of course, one across map. What about the third base? Because we need to be getting the third base down in the middle of that as well, right?
Right.
So do you hide a drone at the third normally, or do you normally just... You said you like to go straight for 3rd and 4th queen immediately. So when did your 3rd normally go down? Imagine the Reaper never even comes across the map. How do you choose to go for your 3rd base normally?
When I start those second 2 queens, as soon as I have 300 minerals, I take the 3rd.
Okay. All right. So in this game, part of the problem was we weren't droning initially very well at the start. So even when these queens pop, we can see we're a little short on that. And... let's see. So, yeah. And then we don't start those queens straight away. We're distracted. We've forgotten to build our Overlord as well, like we talked about. Our injecting was also really late because we were distracted by the Reaper. So, like, the inject in the main, super duper late, right? Check this out. She's going to pop. And it's so important to get that inject, at least one of these 2 injects started. Like, because you can go creep tumor first on the natural. Do you normally inject or creep on the natural first? Which one do you...
I inject and then I send the first 2 to the ramp right there, and then I have them creep spread from there, because then 2 more larva queens are gonna pop up.
And that'll replace the injecting queens. Yeah, cool. Okay, cool. Yeah, so because we missed so much inject time there. Wait. So what happened with this? Were the queens not synced up? They're massively
Honestly,
not synced up. What's going on there? It's a
I,
9
I
second
honestly
difference.
think I just like messed up this game.
Let's
Honestly.
let's take a look at that very opening then. So first things first, are the workers all really derpily doubled up? Is what I'm going to check. So hatchery 16 hatch goes down. Yeah, maybe a second late, not a big deal. So we can see we do have a few mineral patches with 3 on them in the middle. And you'll notice you have 1, 2, 3 mineral patches, now 4 with only 1 worker on them. So your mining is very unoptimized here in the opening. And that just brings us back to how important it can be. If we get a little unlucky with the opening, the workers, sometimes they like to triple up on those stacks, and we can get so much more consistency out of your opening if you double those up. You can see the mineral patches that only have a single one on them, right?
Yeah.
So it's second from the, if we go left to right, second, third, fifth, sixth, almost the entire time, only have 1 worker on them. And this is going to double up badly because these middle patches keep having 3 workers on them. You've also got your rally point to the middle. So as a general rule, I never put the rally point to one of the far low patches. I would, obviously you want it kind of in the middle, right? Generally. So I'll actually change the rally point sometimes to try to get them, but I often individually will rally the eggs to those mineral patches. Very old Day 9 Daily where he's talking, he's like, there's a good chance if you've rallied the egg to a patch that already has one, it'll get there when the drone is like not mining and they'll automatically stack up. And then if you've got the APM, do a bit of extra micro, stack them up, right? But I think in general, if that rally point goes on one of either the 3rd or the 5th mineral patch, because those are a heavy patch and they're one of the more important patches, because we kept just basically giving ourselves the maximum chance of ending up with workers triple stacked on these middle mineral patches by rallying to it. And that just makes our life a little bit harder. So that does slow things down by quite a bit here in this opening, because we can look at this and there's going to be, I think, a few minutes, and hopefully it balances out kind of as more drones come out here. It looks like it's mostly fixed. Let's see if the drones figure it out. They kind of are. It looks like now they're fixed, but we missed about a minute of 3 mineral patches where the drones were mining pretty suboptimally. So that's definitely we can look at. So new pair of lings is one thing. We can double the workers a bit better. Such a good practice for a more consistent opening. And let's just double check. Why didn't the queen start? Because it should always be queen, right? Tap that button twice right as the spawning pool finishes. And it should always time out, right? The hatchery always finishes a second early. So let's just double check really quickly. See what happened there. Maybe you just missed double hit it. But I just want to double check, because normally you'd be selecting your hatchery hotkey. Whoa, you clicked your hatchery. Okay, I see what happened. You clicked on your hatchery and built the queen there. You didn't use your hotkey. Ooh, that's a bad habit. That's really good we've picked up on that.
I also start ling speed right before the queen. Should I do vice versa instead?
Yes, that's not important at all. And you should already be pulling off gas, right? Because you don't need that gas mining. You can pull off gas from 88. When you hit 88 gas, you can start pulling them off one at a time.
Yeah.
In fact, I think you've taken your gas too early, maybe. Let's check. So normally what you do is you'd go hatchery, then you build 3 more drones. Oh yeah, why are we taking the gas? Cool. That gas is really early. So unless you're really trying to do something cheesy, there's no need. What you do is you build 3 more drones. The first one goes to the one, finishes off the minerals, basically, because you're on 15 on minerals. And then the next 2 go gas and then spawning pool. So you rally these eggs individually to where they have to go. So this is cool. 16 hatch. 3 more drones. And where do they go? As we said, first to minerals, then gas, then pool. And rally the eggs is such a good habit, just to clean up your opening for both your saturation as well as the other things. So do you ever manually click on those eggs and rally them out, or no?
Yeah, I actually do it right here with the spawning pool. Okay,
cool. Yeah, just so with that gas, you notice yours went down here right on 1 minute. That can go down at a minute 10, totally fine. And that way it'll actually time out nicer. So it's like queen, get 4 zerglings. Cool, now I've got 100 gas and 100 minerals for ling speed. Yeah, that will clean up your opening here. So first to minerals, then gas, then pool. 16 hatch, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so 2 queens, plus 4 lings, then ling speed can go down after that. Awesome. And you can already have pulled off gas at that point as you get close to it. All right, this is so big, man. So, because in hindsight, I still like the 4 Zerglings, because if you're playing Submarine, one of these small maps, you know, having the extra 2 lings just helps. But your queen was like 10 seconds late on your natural. So think about how much less damage that Reaper would have done if that queen popped out on time. That's huge. So I think your opening will have it'll just be a better opening. And this is cool. Because this applies to all 3 matchups, right?
Yeah.
You're doing 16 hatch, 18 gas, 17 pool in every matchup, I imagine?
It's probably bad now that I hear it, but I do 16, 16, 16.
Cool. Yeah, no need for the gas and pool. Well, we're going to change it to 18. So yep. So 3 more drones. So it's 18 gas and 17 pool, I guess, just to make that clear as well. The supply guts. It just makes it more efficient. Yeah. We just want to maximize having that base saturated nicely. And that's going to make your opening smoother. Then you can start your 3rd and 4th queen a bit smoother. This droning early would have been smoother. You'd already have your drone going out, building your 3rd base. You'd have 2 queens up front, which just don't give a shit about a handful of Marines walking up. And you'd laugh at it. You'd go, all right, buddy, thank you. I will kill those, no worries. Yeah. Okay, cool. So I think what would have been really nice is if we put an Overlord on a pillar to see him moving out. So your 2nd Overlord here, I think it would have been so good if that sat on this pillar, specifically because you saw he went 3 racks. And then you'd see everything coming out of the map, right?
Yeah, just adjust those Overlord paths when I saw everything. Okay.
One in the natural's a bit risky as well, right? It would be good if it was on the pillar, just because it's like, even though it can see the command center, because he's got 3 racks, it's like he could come snipe that one a bit easily. But
I normally pop in at the natural, see a base, and then like pop right back out onto that pillar right there. But,
okay, cool.
But yeah, I saw no base, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna leave it right here, just so I can see.
Just see exactly immediately when the CC goes down. Yeah, I like that. I think that's really good. I mean, it's in a weird off to the side area, so he probably doesn't notice it usually anyway. So that's pretty cool. Awesome. Yeah. So I think that cleans up the opening. I mean, from this point, we can just kind of look at it in terms of, well, what should the play have been? I mean, you kind of run across the map with Zerglings. I'm never a big fan of exploring with your army. You know, I would have loved the individual, like our army maybe sit in the middle of the map, but the individual Zergling go forward. And I look at it and kind of go, you know, we're so desperate for hatcheries at this point. I wish we'd thrown down a macro hatch and a 3rd, something like that. And just a few more Overlords. And then you're kind of hanging out here. You're looking for a little bit of an ambush on his army. And you get a perfectly fine trade. And then we build 16 more lings here. That's 100% necessary. Because he's on 1 base as far as you know. And you just threw away all your units. And that's fine that you threw your units away. You killed all of his Marines. But I think these 16 lings were the ones you'd picked up on in the post-game as a big mistake that should have been drones. But you've already got plenty of economy. You're trying to go Spire here. I would argue that's way too early. You're trying to kind of go to the next stage of the game. If I were you, this lair would literally be maybe to make an Overseer just to confirm what's going on. But I think I would kind of stretch your perception of the early game to the game specifically. He's still on 1 base. He's still just building Marines and tanks as far as you know. You don't need to think about anything except spread some creep, build a few more queens, make more Zerglings and Banelings. As long as you have those things, you will not lose this game. That's all you need, right? And if you spent all your minerals, what is 1,500 minerals? Isn't that like... It's 50 minerals for 2 Zerglings? So that is... It's 90, 60... What is 1,500 minerals? It's a crazy number of Zerglings. It's a lot. It's an army of Zerglings, right? It's enough to kill his whole army and his whole base at the same time. Maths is evading me. Yeah, 4 times 15, it's 60 Zerglings. So, yeah, even here losing that 3rd, it's like, as you can see, it's like his army's just got nothing. So Ling Bane was all you need. But if you had some creep, if you had some more queens, this would have been even easier for you. You could have... Yeah,
that's like the problem I've been having is like when I see like these like really aggressive builds like this, I'm like I forget all the little things, I guess, like oh yeah, I need to make those 2 extra queens so I can start spreading creep, keep
And
injecting.
you should have probably already had those before you even reacted, had at least 4 queens, right? Because if the opening was smoother. So it's partially just clean up the opening and you'll already have the beginnings of that. And then, I mean, you'd be like, I've got queens sitting here. I might as well be spreading creep. Yeah. But I think it's okay to just swap into full unit production like this and so on. It's just have a better start. And then if it is dragging on in this situation, it's like, well, all you should be doing is saying stop at X drone count and mass units, essentially, and just make sure I don't die. So if I think there could be something cheeky like Banshees or BCs, I add some spores. Otherwise, it's just Zergling Baneling, trying to get more hatcheries. Maybe I try to eke out an upgrade or something, like a Bane. Like, obviously, like, you know, a Bane speed would have been amazing in this game since you've got the lair. Maybe a Carapace upgrade, but it really doesn't matter. What's more important is just make units stop the push. And that is the most, you know, the highest priority. It's just your base from the very beginning was kind of slowed down, and then you were just floating minerals for a long time, and you've never really got on top of those minerals in this game. So at any point in the last 5 minutes, which is when you first floated 800 minerals, if you had just quickly thrown more hatcheries down and been a bit more consistent with your production, you would have had more units as well. But I think this all comes off us being like kind of lost at the start with the opening, right? Where we let our third just get absolutely massively delayed. Our opening was already a little bit kind of dicey. And then the moment we saw the 3-Rex, we kind of started staring at the map a little bit more, and we never spent our money. But think about this, right? So enemy has 1 base. Enemy has any sort of aggression. 1 base, weird aggression, big push, right? The only change is to stop droning at X point and focus on unit production. So what do I mean? What do I mean by that? I mean, like, you still spread creep. Still build queens with extra minerals, right? Still build queens with extra minerals. Still inject and spend your money. And I think we would get a much better example of that if we had a quicker third up with a queen on it. If we had some creep out there, we could have, you know, been a little bit more in control of this. So I think, honestly, let's just clean up the opening first of all. Let's focus on that. And if your opponent's just on 1 base, just focus on queens and basic units. Now, you have mentioned, let's hop out of that replay and let's actually get into some live games. Gotcha. You're not as confident with Banes. You feel better with Roaches. Obviously, in that case, it was a 3-rack, so you opted for the Banes. What's your default comp? If you don't know what's coming, assuming it's just bio, you just... Is it Hydraling Bane?
No, I do Ling Bane.
Okay, cool. So by default, you're going Bane Nest. But if you see like an armory and you know you like to go Roaches, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's something this is an important pivot point for us then. We need to focus on being tighter with your opening, which we're already focusing on, but then try to carry that through with more drones and also more consistent queen production, and use banelings as our default unit and just get better with our queens and our banelings, and just scrap the roaches entirely and just keep working on improving at the queenling bane. And if we lose some games, so we didn't quite get the drone count up, so our queen count was a bit inconsistent, or we didn't forgot to make the bane nest on time. By the time the banes are done, the queens are dead, you know, that's fine. Let's work on getting the bane nest early. So that's one path. The other path is we pivot and we go roaches by default. What I don't like about roaches by default is you can't afford to get like roaches just generically as safety and also have a very high queen count. It's one or the other. Like you can have a medium queen count and get roaches. So if you choose to go roaches, you are always going to have a harder time dealing with things like battle cruisers simply by the very nature of the build, but dealing with Hellbats and Hellions is always going to be easier. For me, you know, the optimal way is to defend with Queenling Bane as standard, unless we actually see multiple factories or something. But honestly, it's a preference thing. You know, would we focus on the Ling Bane and the Queen, have a bit of an easier time versus BCs, and just need to be a bit tighter versus Hellbats? Absolutely fine. Like once you get it down, you won't be afraid of Hellbats anymore, but it does take a finer execution. Or the other way around, and get the roaches and struggle a little bit more versus the BCs and have to be tighter with our Queen and Spore D. So which one appeals to you? The Bane as standard defense, or the more Queens, or the Roach one?
Yeah, I think more Queens for now. Just practicing that way, trying to get better with that, and seeing where I can.
How do you choose when to put a Bane Nest down? With your normal build, if there's no sign of aggression, do you just get it like super late, like standard rule of one gas? You're like, nah, just lings, queens, lots of drones? Or do you like usually have like a time where you just chuck it down for safety?
If everything's normal, like I'm not getting like Marines in my face or anything like that, I usually put it down with the lair at like 450.
With the lair at 450, did you say?
Yeah.
Okay, that should be fine for now. We can figure out if we need a better rule, you know? We can figure that out as we go, based on how much we get punched in the face by really fast Hellbats. To be honest, I think you don't ever really need it fast enough if you've got good enough queen production. What? I'm like, just build more queens. I say it like it's a simple thing. It's a very advanced build, rule of one gas. You know, it's mineral focused, but keeping up queen production and having the Zergling net to stop Hellion run bys and still droning and saturating that third mineral line very quickly. It is a balancing act, and you do need to be confident. And you know, you're not going to be 100% safe versus everything. Something you need to accept because you're not executing at a goddamn Lambo level or whatever. And even at pro play, we see Rogue versus Maru, and Maru runs in and kills 20 drones with 4-6 Hellions. And I'm like, fucking hell, Rogue, are you serious, man? Like, come on, man. This is the most standard thing ever. But even the pros are going on that knife's edge where they're really cutting those Zergling product. They're like, there's this little window where if he dives, I'm in trouble. Oh, fuck, he found that window. But they're safe around that. And that's okay. You know, we can embrace a little bit of risk, and I think we should be fine. So let's hop in. Sorry, what coast are you on? I forget. Is West okay? You're
US.
Okay, sweet as. Easy, man. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't hosting on the wrong server. So I've hosted Death Aura here. So this is one of the longer rush distance maps, despite the speedy zones in it. Not a massive difference, but I mean, we can start here. So what are we focusing on? What do we want to do? Remember, I want you to work rally point. Do not put that on one of these far away mineral patches. Put it on one of the closer ones, not on the edge of the middle, preferably not like one of the ones closer to the middle. But more importantly, I want you to just rally those eggs individually, those patches, and micro the drones. I want you to just make sure your drones are doubled up at the start. And let's go 16 hatch, 18 gas, 17 pool. I actually would be happy for us to restart after like 5 minutes and do whatever we want.
Yeah, I'm cool.
Just giving him some instructions.
Gotcha.
Yeah. He said, I shall try to do what I've said. Don't worry if it's inefficient. Just try to do what I've said. Awesome. All right. So he's been given some instructions. Yeah, like I said, double up the workers, and let's just, after the hatch, 3 more drones up to 18. And then it's 1 finishes the mineral saturation. Then we take the gas. Then we take the pool. From there, 2 queens, 4 lings, then start Zergling speed, pull off gas, and let's just progress with that build. Good luck, man.
Thank you.
Awesome. So, yeah, there was a few things when we started today's session, or before the session, he sent me a whole bunch of replays, which, of course, were labeled. There was questions for them, guys. And, of course, they were all on the other patch. Thank you so much, Space Duck, for the $10 tip. I just want to say a huge thanks to that. Sorry for cutting off the message before. We'll replay that, I guess, right now. Thank you so much. Says, thank you, mate. Big thanks, Sykes, for the 6-month resub. Drift for the 5-viewer host. And all those follows. Thank you, guys.
I'm getting so excited I can't even speak anymore.
That is definitely the secret, Pig.
For helping the community improve. In general, your helpful streams.
Yo, can we restart?
Getting the ball rolling with your retweet earlier.
Oh shit, yeah.
Yeah, man. 1 minute,
Yeah,
1 minute rep. This is the gym. We're not sparring in the ring, right? We're lifting weights. So, okay, we forgot to screw one of the plates on the side. That's fine. We're just gonna we look around, we go, no one saw it, no one cares. We're always much more self-conscious in the gym. No one actually gives a shit unless you are actually being one of those people who sweats all over the equipment and doesn't wipe it down, or is like slamming plates on the ground like an idiot. What was it there? Was your overlord late? What was that?
No, the hatchery. I didn't even take the drone down.
Oh, you just forgot to send the
that.
drone down. Okay, I thought something even earlier must have gone wrong and thrown you off. That's cool. No worries, man.
No, I was looking at all the patches. I was like, okay, cool. These are double. These are double. And then I look at my minerals and it says 280. And I'm like, oh, okay.
It's a different rhythm. It's something where you're used to doing different focus at the start on a subconscious level. It's the same thing when I try to probe harass someone. I mess things up, but now I've practiced it a bunch. I can actually do it without screwing up. So it's gonna take reps, but keep it up, man. Let's do it. Thank you so much, Space Duck, for the $10 tip. I really appreciate it. And specifically for helping getting the ball rolling with your retweet earlier, says Space Duck. I've retweeted a few different things recently, but I'm assuming kind of the Me Too stuff. There's been some effed up stuff. Yeah.
I did it again.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I've been digesting some
earlier
crazy shit. That's all right. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. But thank you very much, dude. I really appreciate it. Protoss players for wisdom. Showtime stream. So obviously there's a bunch of pros. They don't stream as constantly as you like. Mana, Showtime, Drogo. Amazing Protoss streams to learn from. Harstem as well. Harstem's YouTube is great. Those would be my top 4 for streamers that are pros. Now, the thing is, those are all guys super high level, super advanced. So in terms of getting things that people that might be able to better communicate it to you and your level and that sort of thing, guess what? M. Canning might give you some better. Well, M. Canning's more of an entertainer, but he will have some wisdom in there mixed in. So that's like the very fun way of learning. There's a lot of Protoss streamers. Roddy is obviously great, has a very unique way of playing, but has a very interesting way of seeing things. So Roddy's a great way of getting outside of the box. If you ask Roddy smart questions without, like really well thought out questions, he's usually got a different way of seeing things.
Way more money than...
He's got way more money than... So yeah, he's saving lava. You don't need to save lava here. He should be droning as natural. He hasn't even changed his rally point down. He's got so much more money than normal. It's hilarious. Alright, let's start writing notes on this, guys, because there's a few things. It's like, wait, we don't need to save lava there. That's crazy. Pratt game 2. Much better opening. Drone rally to natural way ahead of time. Rally point needs to be adjusted to your natural. You need to be droning. So you're in this terrible habit of clicking your drones to the base they're meant to go. Don't ever do that again. Really bad. We don't care about your builds, your reactions here. We care about fundamental habits. Extra queens, let's go. Overlords, rally points, and you know what? We're going to start again in a moment. That was a billion times better. You're like, I have so many more minerals. That was fucking great. You did. Don't save lava. So as soon as you've got, you rally, so you notice you went gas pool, and then you kind of were looking at your lava for a bit, like, wait, what do I do with this? And you built drones, put them on gas. That's what you do. 3 drones straight onto gas, Overlord. But you can already, once you got the 3rd drone rallied to the gas, your main's done. 16 on minerals, 3 on gas. So about a minute and a half ago, you could have, or about a minute ago, you could have already rallied your main down to your natural. And you keep droning. So you stop at 20 or even 21 supply, and that's where you start building Zerglings, okay? So drone rally to natural, way ahead of time. So right after 3 on gas. And 20 Zerglings. So normally you'd rally out 1 drone down to the natural, and then it's 2 queens, Zerglings, ling speed, pull off gas, okay? So we didn't pull off gas yet in this game. That's fine. Let's hop out. Let's do it again. Honestly, just reps of this opening. It's going to be so friggin' powerful, especially in this goddamn momentum-focused matchup, man. I always kill people with a couple of Hellions and a Reaper sometimes. And people are like, what the hell just happened? And I'm like, well, look, this is just the other guy was just a little slow. That's it. He was just a little behind on his economy. He's a little behind on... his opening or something like that, because he's just not building lava, or his queens are a bit later. He's not doubling his workers up, and I just kill him with Hellions and Reapers. And then I play someone who's a bit better, and I'm like, oh, he's got 2 queens out front already, not 1. Oh, now there's three queens. I'm like, whoa. Oh, his natural saturated just faster. So it's just that little exponential scale, right? The earlier we get started on this, it's just going to stack up. So you did great that last game. Let's do it again. only difference here, like we said, is let's try to make sure we rally to the natural a bit earlier. Drone straight up to 20 supply. And we can then pull off gas after the 2 queens, 2 pairs of zerglings, ling speed, pull off gas. Awesome.
Gotcha.
Good luck, man. I gotta give him more space, guys. I'm talking too fast. Blah, 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 blah. Not everyone can pass information as fast as I can. Played the game a billion times. It's not that I'm smarter than he is, in case anyone's like, oh, you think you're so smart, you've got a bigger computer that can pass the info. No, it's the thousands of hours of practice. So much of this stuff is automatic for me. So it's just, it doesn't need to be thought about. I gotta remember a lot more of this. He's rebuilding some fundamental stuff here, and it's so important. People saying salt mod is really good. I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure there are some nice things you can do. Salt mod, doesn't it mess up the game timer though? Other than that, I think it's perfect, right? Or did they even fix the game timer stuff so it actually properly resets? It's amazing how far you can get with bad habits. Dude, I still love this coaster so much, by the way, guys. For those who haven't seen, I have my XCOM coaster. Vigilo Confido. But suboptimal, not bad habits, just suboptimal habits. That's all. I hate that spawning pool positioning. Creates nice choke points for Hellions and Marines to get in your mineral line. There's a mod called Salt. It's called Save and Load tool. So you can save and load, and you can just restart game over and over and stuff like that. And it also helps you create readouts of the build orders you're doing and stuff, which is cool. Have I been playing XCOM 2? No, I have not, Mugen. I'm waiting until I travel. Because I'd finished a War of the Chosen run. And then they're like, oh, by the way, it's coming out on Switch. I was like, really? I was like, man, I wouldn't have just replayed the whole thing. So I will when I'm traveling next. I've also got my, this is a bottle opener. Raynor's badge, Confederate Marshal, Marsara, which is also my fave. It's actually like heavy and metal and stuff. This one's like really well made. It does say made in China in it, but it's really nice. So he's got 6 lings. Should have only been 2. He did set the rally point. Which is way better. He's got the ling speed started. Should be building the Overlord ahead of time. But I'm going to let him just do his thing. So, notice how his workers are doubled up. They're not perfectly. There's 3 on that patch, only 1 on that patch. Don't care. This is still way better. So he does have a habit of just staring at his lings. He's not sending his lings across the map. If he did that, it would make his life a bit easier. I think it was like for BlizzCon many years ago or something, guys. I think is where this one came from. I think they gave it, yeah, 2015 BlizzCon. It's actually my first BlizzCon. Voldemort versus SOS in the finals. Pretty hype, man. So where's the 3rd base, guys? Get that drone out to the 3rd. You're doing much better. Keep it up. So he's building 6 queens now. Oh, what the fuck, dude.
Game paused.
Okay, so we're doing okay at the start. Now, this is not really a rule of 1 gas that you've been doing, because you've been rushing your 3rd and 4th queen really early. That's okay. You can still do this. It's a slightly lower 3rd, slower 3rd, and so on. The problem you're having now is you've just queued up your 5th and 6th queen to the point where you're not able to even build drones right now. So your natural's not finished saturating. Your 3rd's really late. And we're going to get a lot of queens, and this will be incredibly safe, but we are prioritizing that 5th and 6th queens so far. So you're going to have the fastest 6 queens of all time, which is kind of awesome, but it's actually not a priority. So with a normal rule of 1 gas, the way you do it is you get a really quick 3rd gas and a 3rd hatchery, right? So you get more production. And just for your knowledge, if you look at the game timer, what time is it right now in game?
3:20.
Normally you'd be at 3 queens, and then about 3:45, 3:40, somewhere around there, you hit 2 mineral lines saturated. You're back on gas, your 3rd's finishing, and that's where you start building 3 queens non-stop from then on. So you're already on your way to your 5th and 6th queen, it's not even that moment, right? So you're already way ahead of the curve on the queen production, but we're a little behind on the drones and we're very behind on the 3rd hatch. So this is a different way of doing things. And I think we can, since you're comfortable with the non-stop queens like that, we can absolutely stick with this as the opening. And I've even seen, you know, some high-level players do the really quick 4 queens. Like Sue actually has a 2-base muta build where he goes immediate 4 queens, and the moment the 4th queen pops out of the main, he starts a layer at extra gases. And he kind of goes for like a 3rd that's a bit delayed, kind of around the timing yours is. And he goes mutas, but he really loves getting those early queens and just like explodes his creep out and so on. But the important thing here is we need to just make sure we prioritize droning more than anything. Saturating those 2 mineral lines, super crucial. If you had a quicker 3rd base, we would also try to get drones on that base as well, because that's everything our advantage comes from, right? Anytime we're playing a queen zergling focused kind of ruler 1 gas focused build order, it's all about that. That is our whole advantage, is mineral saturation, and that's everything that our strategy is focused around. So how do you want to do this? Do we want to pause at 4 queens, make sure we get the 3rd hatch up, prioritize droning, and then add those queens kind of like after making sure we're spending all our money on drones and kind of saturating? I guess, yeah, we could kind of just go, oh, as the natural's saturated and we've put back on gas, start building 5th and 6th queen.
This might be bad, but I normally do those 6 queens, and then I have the 2 in the main and the natural, and then 4 to spread creep and to defend with. I usually cut queens for the extra queens as far as that. Like, I get 1 per base still, but like that's usually where I stop making queens.
So you just stop at 6 normally. Yeah, I mean, that's going to give you a harder time versus BCs, Hellbats, queens, you know, certain things. So yeah. I definitely think we still want to do it. Honestly, it wouldn't be delaying these 2 queens by that much. They'd still be coming out pretty fast. It's just these 2 queens you started that are 13 seconds underway, that's 300 minerals. So that's 6 drones. So instead, and you've got 6 lava, that would be 6 drones that are building and probably all popping out now. 2, because you need 2 more on gas in the main and you need 4 more on your natural. And obviously we can oversaturate, no problem. We're happy to go up to 20 drones on minerals. That's fine. So we could imagine that. And then, I mean, you've got 300 minerals. So your 3rd base would already be started as well. We don't want that 3rd started so late, right? So I want you sending that drone out as you start your 3rd and 4th queen, right? Remember you said before, oh, as I start my 3rd and 4th queen, I send a drone out for the 3rd. You sent it out really late this game. So try to just make sure it's out over there. Don't slow down your droning. I don't want you putting down that 3rd hatch and then be sitting on 8 lava on 25 drones. Sorry, just a message from Zachary. Yeah, might not be the most useful. So anyways, let's just get those priorities. So we want to pause queens after 4 queens. So basically, here's what we want to do. Start 3rd and 4th queen, right? Send drone to 3rd, okay? And pause queen production until natural saturation plus back on gas. So when do you put back on gas? About 3 minutes 30. And this is about the same time where if we're macroing properly, we should be hitting both mineral lines saturated. So basically, if we look at this, it should be 3:30. That's kind of a marker for us, right? A way we can kind of check. 3:30, back on gas, 2 mineral lines saturated, right?
Correct.
And it's okay to keep building. Don't ever be like, well, I don't have anywhere for my drones to go, right? We can even be rallying drones to your 3rd before it's finished, right? I don't even care if the drones do a long distance trip. You know, there's nothing that makes me more upset than watching a Zerg player go, well, my hatchery isn't finished, so I'm just going to sit here with 10 lava. I'm like, no, build units. And if you don't have a good reason to build Zerglings, make drones. You get a lot of queens, just keep making drones, right? So what we want to do, 3:30, back on gas, 2 mineral lines saturated, 3rd hatch is down. So we're going to go, okay, then start non-stop queen production again. And how high do we want to go on queens? You're playing Ling Bane. We're not going the roaches. So we want to go 8 queens or 9 queens every game by default. So what do you want to choose as your queen count? So you're going to go up to the 5th and 6th queen. Is it maybe 1 more full round of queens after that? 1 queen on each base to make it 9, just to make it a kind of clean round number there where it's like, you know, 1 full round of queens from each hatch after that? Or what do you like the sound of?
Well, like you said, I queued them up a little early. Maybe if I like delay them 20 seconds, take the 3rd, But like get up to the 9 queens like you were talking about though, like for sure.
I think that'll be nice. Awesome. All right, cool. So now you've already started that 5th and 6th queen. There's no point canceling them now, but we're going to do it. Why? Because it's just about getting the order correct in our head. So when not because it's efficient, we just want to shuffle the priorities. So what I want you to do here as we unpause, select your hatchery hotkey, cancel the queen. So your hatchery hotkey is 5. 5, escape, build drones, build 3rd hatch, and then start your queens up again and put back on gas and kind of progress from there. So actually, I guess the way we can do it, what we'll do, cancel the queens, 3rd hatch straight away, right? Because that's already very late. And then we'll do it the normal way. So before we start those queens, what do? We drone to finish saturating the base, and we put back on gas, and then we start building more queens, because that's the marker, right?
Right. Do you mind if I build the hatchery first and then cancel?
Absolutely, that's fine. You're already looking
cool.
at it, actually. You got it selected, so yeah, go for it. All right. Okay, sweet. Thank you for patience, mate. Go. All right. Good luck, have fun.
Game resumed.
Thank you very much, Pigeon Can Fly, the 10-month resub. Much love, mate. What's a better unit, drone or queen? Says Slinks. Drone. Drone has unlimited potential, you know? Unlimited potential. Drone can become a hatchery, man. Drone can become a spine crawler. You can see he was staring at that. That's a habit a lot of players have.
Big.
Distraction comes in and they go and stare at it.
Reels coaching session. All the best.
Oh, no worries, Elvin Roget. I'm glad that helped you out. Thank you so much for helping us. So the Overlord spread really sucks, guys. Overlords are in all sorts of random positions in this game, and that's a shame. So, okay, cool. Other notes. OV positioning sucks. Need that ring out front, natural, and 3rd, so our queens can be in position. So it's like, you know, our queens are meant to be there. They're just chilling, right? They're still not responding. You know, there's just no rhythm to that part of it. So we're taking a second gas for some reason. Drones still aren't rallied to the 3rd. He lost a few drones there. Why aren't we droning? Why aren't we building hatcheries? What's going on? Staring at his creep, but there is an anchoring rhythm here. He also hasn't kept building queens.
Game paused.
All right.
Hello?
All right. So we're done in this situation. The reason we are done in this situation is very simple. Can you guess what is the biggest thing that's going on in the last minute? What's the big kind of problem with our setup right now?
I didn't start layer or obey nose.
Nope.
No?
You have 1,800 minerals.
Shit.
So that's the big one. The big one is you were doing great, but then he came in with those Hellions and the Reaper before that. And the last 2 minutes, you've been completely off rhythm because of those little pokes. And it was really clear. The Reaper came in, you stared at it for a bit. Should have A-moved, your Zerglings looked away, right? Kept doing other things. It's hard to do. It takes a lot of training. It's really hard. But then the Hellions came in, and then you got afraid to drone your 3rd. And you took another gas. You took your rally point. I don't know if your rally point was ever on the 3rd. Maybe you hadn't moved it there, because that is a bad habit of yours. You got to get used to moving those rally points over instead of manually clicking drones. That's like a really fundamental habit that's got to change. Did you move that rally point back to your natural, or was it just never on the 3rd in the first place?
It was never on the 3rd, honestly.
That's honestly one of the biggest things then, right? So the OV positioning is super key, massive as well. We don't have any vision outside our base. We've got all these overlords on his side of the map and on the edges that aren't important. So remember, with those overlords, you're clearly sending them out to specific scenarios. Build overlord, and you're clicking them out on the map, which is awesome. But you only need one on his side of the map. The rest of them, they should be providing that ring of vision out front, and we should be just getting comfortable with, You see the Hellions coming, you A-move your queens on your mini-map, go do other things. So that's going to be a rhythm that you want to work on. So do you understand what I mean by the ring of vision outside?
Yes, like putting them. Can I ping? Oh, I can't ping. Boss. Like putting them right outside of ramps, so like high ground, just spot you moving.
Yeah, exactly. And not even high ground. There's nothing that shoots up in the early game from any race. So Zerg, ZvZ, ZvP, ZvT, every matchup, we should have overlords out front our base. Okay, so the important thing for you to train is if you can always have that vision, always have some decent creep spread, and always have that quick queen hotkey. It's you see the Hellions running one way, you select your queens, A-move them to that entrance to your base, keep injecting, keep droning, building buildings, and then you kind of have this rhythm of glance. Oh, the Hellions are going to a new angle. You A-move the queens on the minimap to where they're going, and you just keep doing your thing. And unless those Hellions really dart all the way in, that's where your Zerglings actually have to be microed. But otherwise, your Zerglings are always just hanging way back, and it's like, if he tries to go past those queens, they'll engage. Otherwise, it's a very set and forget sort of defense, because the queens are so tanky, but they're slow. So you need to be able to give those orders to reposition kind of ahead of time. Otherwise, they're constantly like, Hellions are appearing out of nowhere, running in, burning drones on your third, and it really throws your rhythm off. And there's so much to do with the rule of one gas. You've got so much minerals you need to spend, so it really throws you off. So that's a big one. That's going to really help you out. The other one that, like I said, is massive is, shifting your rally point, right? So right now, there is an underlying thing where whenever you build drones and you click them on a hatch. What that fundamentally does is it means you are unable to just drone up while doing other things. You just cannot do it. So your ability to macro when there's anything that throws you off or distracts you, it does not exist the way it does for a Zerg player who's better at moving their rally points around. So you won't even go to the default of just tap hatchery, hold down drone key, right? And that's something which could totally revolutionize your play, because that's what you kind of need to do a lot of the time in these situations. Hellions dart in, you move your queens over. Sometimes you need to manually micro, sometimes deal with a banshee. You need to be droning while you do that. You go to inject your hatchery. As you're going over to build your evos, you're selecting your hatcheries, holding down that drone key, building some overlords. So this is something we need to kind of make sure it's literally almost a mindless tapping of the hatcheries and holding down the drone key. And we kind of just trust the rally point to send those drones to the newest base. And every now and then you go to your natural, you go, oh, I'm 22 out of 16. Cool. Grab some, send them to the third, change your rally point there. Next few rounds of drones, we know are going to an unsaturated third. And you're still kind of getting that value without having to do this scroll over and click on the minerals, or camera hotkey, click on the minerals that you do. So I think this, honestly, for all your matchups, is the underlying X factor force multiplying habit that will just basically, it's going to cast Blessing of Strength on all your matchups and all your StarCraft play. And I think that's the habit which should change absolutely everything for you. I'm hoping. Obviously, it'll be hard to unlearn though. So yeah, I think that's really powerful. What are your thoughts on that? Are you keen to try to kind of tear up the floorboards and get rid of that one and work on shifting this rally point?
No, absolutely, and like that's something I never even thought of, to be honest with you. And the reason I really wanted to get a session with you is because I after our last one, I jumped up about 450 MMR.
Holy shit.
And that was just off of like the biggest things were like, oh, hey, spread your overlords, use link spotters, and remember to drone and you gave me like benchmarks for drones. Like, oh, if I see 2 bases, like I go to this number, so on and so forth. And since then, like I've really been rolling Protoss players that I go against. But then with Terrans, when I did climb up in a diamond, I was getting just mauled by like the 4-pronged harass attacks, and like I think me shifting my screen over to like tell my drones where to go is like really valuable time that I could be spending like better controlling the situation.
It's explosive. The early game of ZvT and the way it cascades one way or the other. Most players who struggle really hard in this matchup, it comes back to the early stages. And there's a 10-minute death animation after that because it's hard for the Terran to finish us off as a Zerg player. And it's frustrating and demoralizing to play against because it just leeches you're like, well, can I even beat? Like, Marines become the scariest thing in the world because you just get trained to expect to be engaging into an army twice the size of yours, right? So then you're suddenly putting even more focus on trying to like ambush them or get like the sickest Bane hits or flanks or run bys. and you're trying to push the boulder up the hill, and we kind of need to take that step back, work on some fundamentals, be super shit for a while, but at the end of it, what we're going to do is we're going to start on top of the hill, on a flat plateau, on an even ground with the Terran, or even ahead. And once you start getting good at this, like this overwhelming macro and the power of like just the tankiness of the Queens as their ability to kind of stop all early Terran pressure in of themselves, it absolutely drastically changes your play. And you'll find there are games where you just like, oh, I have more stuff. I just roll them and you win, and you go, oh, like, you know, every fight was an uphill battle. I was always behind an army for the longest time. And then you're like, oh God, that's crazy. So that's going to be huge, is your ability to do that. So at this point in this replay, or this game, sorry, it is a live game, we'd had 3 more queens popping out right now, right? That extra, the 7th, 8th, 9th queen, these 6 queens up front, we'd have a 4th base and a macro hatch, both halfway done, or at least started at this point. You know, we'd have so many more drones. And even if you're surprised by Hellbat timing and you kind of take a bit of an awkward fight, you take some losses, well, you were on 60 drones, it's fine. You can rebuild and so on and so forth. For now, though, we are out of time. I've given you some, I think, huge impact things, especially that shifting the rally point. You know, it's like as soon as your natural's on 16, rally to the natural. Just another point on that. So if your natural's on 12 workers out of 16, you build 5 more workers, you can change the rally point ahead of time. So you can do what you used to do. You can say, ooh, I'm going to finish the saturation off ahead. Build 5 workers, click them on the minerals like you normally do. But you're doing that so you can immediately change your rally point to the 3rd before your natural's even saturated. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like, we don't want to do that if we're under pressure or there's other things we've got to do. But, you know, we're trying to just get the automation ready ahead of time, essentially, yeah? So, you know, before Hellbats are here, before this Hellion's darting in or BC running around, you know, we're trying to get as much done as possible before the Terran can really force us to look at the engagements and occupy our APM. Final point. So, fundamentals of Hellbats. I don't think, we never talked about Hellbat Micro, right?
No.
Okay. So you want to basically have a big arc, big firing arc, or a concave, as we always talk about, of queens. And you want to individually pull back queens as they are targeted or exposed. So you don't micro them all as one control group. If a medevac comes too deep, focus it, but be ready to A-move/cancel your target fire, because if it gets microed back, your queens are going to walk into the Hellbats. So what's the important thing is, why are we doing this? Well, they do splash damage. Stay spread, no splash hits you, okay? That's number 1. But it's also, if your guys are in an arc and you keep pulling back the weak one, they can't target the weak one down, can they? Unless they move forward in a ball towards it. And then your queens are all hitting at the same time and they're kind of having to keep all their stuff. And if they just A-move, the Hellbats will naturally spread out. And once Hellbats are spread out, they are useless against Zerglings. Mm-hmm. So if the Hellbats spread, then and only then do your Lings engage. Bonus points for flanking and cutting off rallying Hellions. Bonus points for counter-attacking. They're natural as they hit you. They almost always have the wall down. In this case, he didn't even build a wall. And you can usually, because the Zerglings don't help until the Hellbat spread, your rallying Zerglings can be the ones that engage as the Hellbat spread out. But as long as you're patient with your queens and you just kind of manually pull them back, you can do good. So let's just very quickly do 1 minute of practicing this as we finish off this session, okay? You're in a not great position, but what you're going to need to do is pull all your units to the left here. Get your Zerglings to queue to go around behind and engage on the Marines. But focus on just transfusing your queens and pulling them individually back. And as he chases you, just A-move/go up this ramp to the left. Go after the queens. So I'm going to tell him to be a bit simplistic just to make this a simpler scenario. So he's going to try to hunt them down. You're going to have to just, like I said, pull them back and start spreading them out to the left. Lings go around to the right. Build more queens. Use transfuses. This is a pretty bad position, but there's no medevac. You should be able to deal with it. You ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Our forces are under attack. Game paused.
Okay. Thanks for the help, guys. This is awesome. Love if you practice some more. Did I mute myself with you? I didn't, right?
No.
Good. There we go. Awesome, man. All right, good luck in the prac. If you guys can play some more games, that would be amazing. When I leave the game, you guys will be able to unpause yourselves. But yeah, good luck in your practice, dude. And look forward to you having a smoother opening already, just the doubling up the workers and so on, you know, cleaner opening. But as that game goes on, more automation, more rallying, knowing those drones are going to kind of go to the good base, and only fixing up the saturation a little bit later when you've got the APM, but really just non-stop production, keep it going, get the fourth base, the macro hatch down, and I'm sure you're going to have so many more units than you've ever had at an earlier timing than you've ever had them in this matchup, and it's going to be a different experience. Don't be afraid if you do float a lot of minerals throughout the games. Just try to get through the bank eventually and try to make sure it doesn't get too big, you know? If you're at 1,500 minerals a lot of the time on 3 full mineral lines, not the end of the world. But if you're going up to 2,000-3,000 minerals, or it's, you know, just continually expanding, that's where it's like, all right, just got to work on that rhythm, work on that spending. Don't be afraid to build 2 macro hatches as well. Totally fine if you do that, man.
Gotcha.
All right, mate. Good luck, and catch you next time, brother.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
Good night, man.